Thank you very much, facilitators. It's very interesting when you get this thing going, like, herding like a herd of cats. Yeah, it can be tough for some groups, yeah? But there seems to be some organic order. Maybe it's divine. I'm sure it's divine. But thank you, facilitators. Right. I'd like to invite the first two representatives from question number 1, and that is our differences. I believe it's Gillian and Frank. To come on stage, you've got 10 minutes between the two of you. So maybe, you don't have to repeat everything. Maybe, if something's already said, you can add on to it, say yes, and then, this is the other bits that we've got to say in addition to that. Alright, so ladies and gentlemen, can we welcome Gillian and Frank Appleton.
Language and culture. So how would we work on overcoming those differences? And we first looked at people coming to Australia, migrants. All Australians are migrants. And so we thought that there has to be an effort made by the person coming into a new group. And that person has to make an effort to fit into their new culture, their new race, their new region, their new colour, whatever. And the best way to do that is to integrate through friendship and sharing, learning to work with people, learning to give and take with others. We then looked at this, that we need to strike a balance with the fundamental differences that there are and understand that we're all inherently different. All of us have differences within us. We need to be able to express our views and acknowledge that we do have a lack of knowledge of otherness, lack of knowledge that creates these fundamental differences. We came to the realisation that fundamental differences and fundamental differences are fundamentally the same. I think is what I'm trying to get at. So no matter what group our little differences are in, those differences really are the same thing. So we just have to strike the balance between what it is that we've got and what it is that we're hoping to achieve. So we have to find that point of balance there. The next one, both of our group were fairly believers in God, of whatever name you want to give your God or your spiritual being, and that we have to accept that God rules mankind. That even though I might think I'm wonderful, there is somebody above me. And if we do think that somebody looks after us, it gives us that understanding and comprehension that we should be looking after others too. That if we accept that God rules mankind, that those with understanding will take other people as they are. We can't change people's colour, we can't change where we came from, we can't change where we're going to, but we can come to an understanding to help people live together, create less difference if we can't get rid of the differences. So Daniel then talked to us about Singapore and what happens in Singapore, and fundamental differences can be healed and they can be changed. We decided that we had to start with a personal acceptance of responsibility. Don't say, the government should, the person next door should, the migrant should, whoever should. Think about what we should do first. And, yes, turn the page. Have a realisation that fundamental differences cause destruction and fear. Fear is what creates a lot of the differences that we can think up and we can make up to look at. So a realisation of our fear can lead to a process of healing and education. We need some community engagement. We need to work through that tolerance that we've been talking about that we don't want to use anymore, but we have to start somewhere. Tolerance begins with the marginal issue. Level up becomes an understanding. Then get to the acceptance of the difference and the acceptance that yes, we have to work on it, and get to know one another. Get rid of the differences through understanding, acceptance and knowledge of who we are and who the people that we work with are. We also have to know that with integration and group dialogue, we need to get people to speak out, to air their differences and seek answers to overcome problems. Understand that we all have an innate curiosity about those who are different. Channel that curiosity towards an understanding. Just don't look at them and say they're different and leave it. Just channel that through and work on it till we can understand them. Understanding then leads to the acceptance that we're all talking about being the answer to the problems. But we must remember that harmony is very fragile. Daniel gave the example, it's just like a crystal glass. Looks very beautiful today, we've got understanding, but if we drop it, if we don't keep our awareness going, if we don't keep that wanting to learn and wanting to integrate more, our little crystal glass can shatter very easily. Thank you.
Well, we started off talking about the fact that religious celebrations of one particular sect can become objectionable to other sects. If one particular sect meets at 4 o'clock in the morning or 10 o'clock at night or something of the sort like that, and makes loud noises, rings bells, chants, says loud prayers, sings, etc., and causes a lot of noise, and then when they leave they start up their cars and rev their engines and wake everybody up. But the local neighbours, some of them are going to object to this. So it's incumbent on the people that are holding the religious celebrations, wherever and whenever it is, really need to be cognizant of that, take it into account when the way they behave. Another fundamental difference is where there are language barriers. Where there are language barriers, people just don't understand each other, and until it's an aid to understanding if people can develop sufficient understanding of some common language in order to be able to talk to each other and discuss it. One question that arose was when people come to Australia and they're applying for citizenship, they have to undergo a test in English. And we had a bit of a discussion about whether this was a desirable thing or not, whether people should be subjected to having an examination or not, whether it was an imposition on a person to they have to sit an examination. On the other hand, there's the fact that if they are compelled by having to sit an examination to actually learn that language reasonably well, in order to sit there and pass the exam, then actually they've had a favour done to them, that they'll understand the culture that they've come to better. Another factor was age factors, that elderly people tend to forget what the sort of things that they encountered when they were children at school and the peer pressures that they were subjected to, then they forget about that, and they expect their children or grandchildren to not have to conform to peer pressures. They might say, you don't have to do what coming down the road does. You can do something else. Well, you might not be able to do something different. So the children really have to adapt to the peer pressures and learn some way of fitting in. Now, everybody has a bias. Lots of people have lots of biases. We all have biases. And so religion often constitutes parts of our biases. And so we have to try as best we can to accept our own biases and accept that they are biases and try not to force our ideas down somebody else's throat. So we have to explain to others our point of view and listen to other people's point of view. We've got to listen to other people. The one aspect of cultural differences is the question of gender equality. As we know, in our culture, we regard ourselves as having gender equality. It wasn't always so, but it has become much more equal during my... I can't read it, I'm sorry. Can you read it out to me? Time's up. I'll shut up very soon. There was a lot of... it was a much more patriarchal society when I was a child than it is now. The men used to gather around the beer barrel at one end of the hall, and the women would talk about cooking eggs down the other, and never the twain shall meet. But it's changed now. As we went into the homosexuality and attitudes of about homosexuality and whether or not we should have a separate function, a separate category for same-sex marriages. Some people were very strong that religions divide humanity rather than unite it. So we've got to work hard. But the ultimate outcome of all this discussion was that it's very vital that we keep talking to each other in a constructive manner. Keep talking, keep talking, keep talking. Thanks.
Thank you. For the second question, which is the challenges of differences, we have Vanessa and Gail. We have them on stage to share their deliberations, please. Can we welcome them?
Interesting debate, conversation, and our four facilitators trying to pull us back into line. Challenges of differences. Wow. Well, we came up with the language misunderstandings. It can create barriers. An example is, g'day mate, or look here mate. Language, how we use it, our tone, those sort of things. And when we've got so many newcomers coming into our country, how are they going to make out what is appropriate for the right time? So that can cause challenges. We came up with manners, like Frank just said. When we're having our different celebrations, we need manners to respect those that aren't perhaps celebrating the same events and what have you. Then there's another big challenge of differences, is when we think we are the holders of the truth, exclusivity of the truth. Then there's another barrier of our freedom of expression. And I guess that crosses the language barriers, the manners barriers. Another big barrier was how much are we required to tolerate? Actually breaks down to intolerance. And the analogy of the blind man and the elephant, where people were blindfolded and told to touch different parts of the elephant. And this equates to our reality is only within our experiences. Then, of course, there was one that's been brought up before, the age-generational differences. So then we got on to strategies. That, by the way, took a long time to come up with all those differences because we were all trying to come up with all our own realities of what the challenges were. Now, the strategies predominantly was cultivate compassion. That came across loud and clear. It starts at a young age, and modelling from the parents is a very good teaching method for compassion, how to learn it. Then we got to exposure to diversity. The more we exposed, the more we learn to embrace diversity, not fear it. Our group also discussed the requirement to learn our own culture before we start commenting on other cultures. And of course, the underlining factor with that one is respect. Then we came back to change. It is a very long process, and it starts with the individual, as Klaus alluded to yesterday. He didn't know how to love other people, he had to learn that and compassion, and it takes a long time. Then we came up with engage in dialogue and don't preach, and hold compassion in the face of challenges. Thank you.
We make assumptions based on first appearance and do not make an effort to understand. We all tend to interpret differently, and we have not learned to understand because of our learned beliefs and behaviour. We, as individuals, create divisions and put restrictions on relationships we are not open to accept. We can also lose a sense of ourselves by not being accepted. Society. Cultural faith people can also be intolerant to change, and it reflects both ways. Societal structures such as faith and religions use control and power over others. They control on who should be accepted into their congregations. We talk about differences but do not act upon what we discuss because we do not want to change the norm or the identity we associate. What we can do. We need education in school systems, media, and our faith and religious establishments. We need not to be tolerant, but to accept and welcome those who are different. We can learn so much by doing this. We need to be active listeners through clarification and body language. Remembering your origins, this can help you to understand how people from a different culture and faith go through struggles with becoming part of the community. We need to learn and grow within ourselves in order to make relationships with others. We need to have a sense of humour and make an effort to understand others' humour. We need to create a society that is void of fear and instead embraces and promotes love. Create groups that work towards interrelationships. And curiosity towards others help you to learn and respect. Sharing love and positive love. The goats are the key to change. Sorry, kids. Okay, so personally, I didn't get to tell my group what I thought. Okay, ready? The challenge with difference for me is that we are ignorant to the world's societal issues and often choose not to see or learn the world's struggles. We need to make an effort to participate in changing society's issues. This is through activism on those issues, but also talking to those who are affected by them. We need to spread the message, not through cross-cutting media, but social media. One person can make a difference. So let's all make a difference, a positive difference, instead of a negative difference. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, the final question or topic that we actually deliberated on was the topic of tolerance versus acceptance. And for that, ladies and gentlemen, I give you Moose, and I believe it's Jane. Dorothy? It's Dorothy? Yes, Dorothy. Thank you. So can we welcome Dorothy and Moose?
Beauty, I was told. Okay, we spent a lot of time talking about tolerance, so I'll go through what came out from that. These are not my notes, so I hope I don't misunderstand anything. We decided we had to define tolerance, so we went around the group. The first thing that came out was that tolerance is superficial. It's something that we put up with until it bothers us, and then we try and get rid of it. We had a couple of young ladies from Singapore with us, and that was very interesting because of their experience that we haven't had here in Australia. And one of the young ladies said that even if there is understanding, sometimes it's hard to tolerate other religious festivals, for example, because of they give an example, the Chinese burning money. So more communication and education is needed to be more tolerant. And perhaps, like Singapore, we should have a few laws to help minimize the effect of some practices on others. Although personally, I don't think that a law would make much difference. Okay. Tolerance is being accepting of others from other cultures, but tolerance doesn't go far enough. Tolerance is superficial. For example, I accept you, but internally I condemn you. It's being accepting on a surface level, but in your own heart you're not really accepting at all. We really need to learn to tolerate others and to learn that others can be of use to society. Putting up with is tolerance, acceptance is something else. It's very hard to tolerate others when you don't understand them. Tolerance is not enough on its own. There are some things that should not be tolerated. For example, violence, abrogating human rights, and that goes into intolerance, and we should not have tolerance for things like domestic violence, that sort of thing. Perhaps we're all intolerant because when we're afraid of something new, but understanding is very important. But sometimes when we're putting up with things, there can come a level when we've had enough and then we can become, from being tolerant, we can become intolerant and do and say things that perhaps we don't mean. Then we got on to tolerance because we were reminded of the time, and we said, we went on to acceptance, that it's higher than tolerance. When you understand others, tolerance becomes acceptance, and that can lead to respect, which includes compassion. Even with acceptance, there are rules which apply. One of the young ladies from Singapore said that in school there's still little acceptance, just tolerance, and they still have a long way to go because there's not enough education about the other religions. They're forced to live together, but they're not. The differences are not explained, and that just means that they tolerate the others, but don't really understand them and truly accept them. My own opinion is that we can accept all because everyone is a child of God, but we don't have to accept their behavior. We don't have to accept if they're wise or something like that. But we must accept the person as being pure and true at the outset, like Master Ching Kung told us this morning. We're all born pure, and we all have this purity inside us. It's just a question of finding it. And we all, I think, are allowed in time to come to this. That's all we managed to get through, but thank you very much.
Hi. We had 12 very good different views, and we accepted all of them. So we talked about tolerance and acceptance. We realized that there's different connotations to these two words. Tolerance, on one hand, we accepted that tolerance is of a lower level. It has a sort of condescending tone. Whereas acceptance is different in the sense that it has an air of openness and a step towards understanding and engagement. Fundamentally, we should accept that all people as human beings is something we should work towards, and that realize that they may have imperfections, as do you and myself as well. And they have a right to peace, life, and they also have a right to believe in their own belief systems and the right to also to express this out. And the way and how they base this, the level of their tolerance or acceptance is based on sometimes it's based on their own value systems or based on their level of comfort levels. Right? But in the end, we still have to accept that they have the right to believe in these belief systems and they have the right to express it out. That's the whole point. And what we can do to become more accepting is to continually engage. I think this has been a common thread just now in all the sharings. And the thread that weaves through all this engagement and dialogue, the common one, has to be a sense of politeness, respect, and also love. Yeah, that's our reflections. Thank you.
Right. I invite some of the deliberations, if you could gather them and maybe give them to Mei-Ling. She would compile them, and there could be avenues of follow-up. So if I could ask the presenters or the scribes for the notes, Mei-Ling will have to decipher them. Some of us with very creative handwriting. Ladies and gentlemen, the final segment before we close today, we'd like to invite 3 people from amongst us to share some of their reflections on the conference, on the proceedings yesterday and today, and some of their thoughts and maybe some of their ideas or recommendations for the way forward, or maybe what they are taking away from it, areas in which we can work on after this. So we've got three of us who will be invited up. And the first, I'd like to invite a representative from here, from Toowoomba. I'd like to invite Venerable Hu Chin up here to share some of her thoughts.
Good afternoon, everyone. Is this mic working? Yes. In fact, we are very privileged and honored that we have so many of our friends from the different parts of the country as well as abroad, especially, from Singapore as well, to come join us for this forum. Through these 2 days, yesterday and today's forum, we have heard a lot of good ideas, values coming from our various religious representatives, as well as the community in Toowoomba. We have learned plenty of ideas as well from the discussion that we have gathered yesterday and today. And we hope that through this discussion and all this meeting together, we could continue the work that each of us are doing with our community and with our families. I have picked up just some points from our Venerable Masters. He had talked about religious cooperation, and from there on, we could continue to work together for the humanity. Even though our religions and beliefs might be different, and we all recognize that and we agree to accept the differences, but we can still work on the common grounds and values, just like Venerable Master mentioned in the talk this morning, that things that we understand and we can accept and use it in our life, we could, pick on them and continue to try and practice and work it out. While those things or teachings that we can't understand or accept at this time, we can leave it for later on, and then maybe later on as we begin to see and understand more, of the other teachings in the other religions, we could come to understand and accept them later on. We would like to continue our learning. Even though each of us have our own faith and teachings, it is good for every one of us to go deeply into our own religious texts. And then from there we can also learn from the others' religious texts and to improve on or complement our learning from our own beliefs. And practice it in our family, with our friends, and at our work and community groups. We have this question that came up about, we have this forum, and what do we do from here? And we have heard from some of our friends here that in fact we can start working from the family, from ourselves. When each of us find a religious text or teaching that we can dwell deeply into, and we start to practice and learn them, the wisdom from ourselves, we can then start to bring this wisdom to help our family members as well as the people around us. So if we can all do this, in fact all of us have our own sphere of influence. The people we can talk to and meet will be different from the people you can talk to and meet, and the friends that you know will not be the same people that I know. So each of us have our own area of influence, and we can do a lot for the people around us if only we start, to pick up on the studies and, gain the wisdom as time goes on. So this work is not going to be like a short one where we could immediately see the results that we want, but it will take years of learning and continue working and meeting together. For myself personally, I feel that all of us here, we are already taking a step, towards this contribution to peace by being here in this room today, and sharing your great ideas and learning. So congratulations. Thank you.
And our next representative comes from Singapore, so we'd really like to hear her perspective on the conference and the way forward. Can we welcome Julissa Muhammad Asfar, please?
Hear me? Okay. Hi, my name is Julissa from Singapore. Okay, just go straight forward. Okay, from my personal observation throughout the workshop and 2-day session, I really find it is a very grateful experience for me because I'll be able to see honest, sincere and mature voices that shared throughout the session. This also enables us youth to look deeper into ourselves and understand ourselves better. But then from my personal perspective, after having all this platform, what kind of concrete action that we can do in order to achieve that tangible outcome? We can attend conference, organize lecture, dialogues, and anything that is very intellectually prepared. However, sometimes we forget that this program that being organized able to welcome all ages, regardless whether they are old and especially the young, to make the tolerance and acceptance as a reality. Personally, as a youth, sometimes we feel that there are so many rules and regulations for us to consider before we can even speak. And sometimes we unable to really express ourselves. And again, as youth, I really do hope that from the well-experienced people, the young at heart and old at the face, to give us and assist us with sufficient room of expression, using our own style in order to allow us to make where we live a better space and safer space for all. The key word is freedom of expression. And that's all. Thank you.
And last, certainly not least, we have a representative, very senior representative, who's come all the way from Brisbane. May I invite Dr. Arsalan Mozaffari Palati. We welcome you, please.
Thank you, young lady, and thank you, my friend, by referring to us what you should. To be the last speaker is a great advantage. Do you know why? For two sides. First, the organizers like to show to the audience that the worst is the last one. And when he talks, the audience will say, how good the first ones were. And to me, everybody is very happy or a little tired, so they don't pay much attention to what I say. What's better than that? My dear friends, my dear wise and knowledgeable friends and speakers here, they talked about different religions and beliefs, and they gave references from the holy books, the talks, the maxims, the ideas of all the religions, laws and regulations. Let's stop here. We are talking about common humanity and civic responsibility. 2 days ago there was a forum, a workshop here that our dear friend Farid was running it. And it came a time that he was asking to see the representatives of which religions are there. He was calling, for instance, the Buddhists, and the Buddhist people were raising hands, and the Christians and the Jews. And there was a funny person that everybody, whatever religion was called, he was raising hands. And it can't be anybody else but me. But why? Why? Sometimes stupid people do good things too. What was or what is the message of all of the religious holy books and laws and also the moral things? We are all mirrors of one fact, one truth. And that is love. You look at the teachings of Zarathustra, look at the teachings of Moses and 10 Commandments, and Lord Jesus. What did Buddha say? Whenever Master said all of those things this morning, and I am not good enough to repeat them. What did Muhammad say? What did all the others say? They all had one message from one source. Love. And that's it. And because I'm an old man, we try to ask for to be loved. So they say, oh, he's an old man. My grandchildren always say, oh, that old man is my grandpa. Regrettably, in times, people, friends or enemies, stupid fanatics or on either side, they have added things to the laws of religions or deducted from them. They have increased something and reduced something. In India, do we have any Indian people here? You have lassi. Lassi is yogurt. Do I pronounce it right? We say most. And we add water into that and beat it. In summer, it's a beautiful drink. Much better than Coke and other things. And some shops or some people, they have their donkey and a skin of lamb on that full of this yogurt, we call it dough, and selling it. And they were poor people. So they were taking little yogurt, heaps of water. In Farsi they say, in Persian they say, they were putting water as much as it had white color. So they have done the same thing with religions or ideas or opinions or beliefs. They have added to it or reduced from it. That is why we are facing this discomfort, intolerance, unacceptance, and beyond all of that, not unity. That is the reason. Nobody looks and nobody sees what the real message of those religions is. In Quran, there are heaps of verses. Yesterday somebody was commenting that the chapter 4 of Quran says, kill unbelievers. I am a peasant and an educated person. But is it a good reference? God orders you to be just and do things like in an equal way. Which one do I look at? Why do we refer like this to the others? What do we want to achieve? Is that humanity? Is that unity? We go to other places, we see the same type of references here and there. Anyway, I have written something in Farsi and I can't see my own writing. What can we do? What can we do? And really, what can we do? Can I change everybody? My son doesn't listen to me. Well, he does. Because still I'm the father. And I will be. We can't change anybody else. We can't change the world. We can't change the situation. We can't change the conditions. We can't change the laws. But we can change ourselves. And this is what it is written. I can't see it to read. And this is what a Darwish or Sufi says. Get rid of your ego. Get rid of yourself. Baha'u'llah has explained about the 7 stages or the ways of path in Sufism. Have you read them? Beautiful. The thing is, all the bad is in me because I see the bad. Jesus Christ and his disciples were going somewhere, and there was a dead dog on the side of the road. In Judea in those days it was hot and it was summer, and so that was smelly and liquids around and flies everywhere, and the disciples took their robes and walked like that. Jesus called them back. Come here. They came. He said, look at the teeth. There is no opal. There is no jewel, diamond as beautiful and white as this teeth. So Jesus is the man of God because he sees a lot of things that ordinary eyes cannot see. I think I'm the center of the humanity. I think all the creation is made for me. I think that I am the best of the best. That is wrong. I am another dot on the circumference of the circle. My existence or non-existence doesn't matter, because I'm nothing. But still, I am a dot. If I'm not there, the circle is not complete. There is only one circle, one dot in the middle, and that one is love. And all of the human beings, from eternity to eternity, they are just dots on the circumferences. My dear friends, we are all human beings. No matter what, the big boss or the doorkeeper, the rich man or the poor old man who is working with his shovel on the side of the road. They are both humans. They both have feelings. The person whose tongue and language I don't understand, he has love as much as I do love. I don't understand it. That little child who is disabled and maybe is orphan, he also has all the feelings of the child. He likes colorful clothing. He loves beautiful shoes. He wants to have good food. Exactly the same way as your child wants. So this is what it says there. And this is what we came here for 2 or 3 days to remind ourselves, to wash the dust of the world, the dirt of the world from the shiny mirror of our hearts, and go back home again with better conscience, better heart, better feeling. My beloved, sadly, May is not here. Now we are leaving in a few minutes. We are leaving this place. We are 200, 300 or 400 or more leaving this place. Let us make a comment, agreement. Let us promise to ourselves to do something. And that something is throw out, kick out the dirt of this world, which is lust, selfishness, greed, hatred, unacceptance, and all of those things from the temple of the heart, the temple of love, temple of beauty, and invite unity, friendship, kindness, giving, forgiving to come in. Then the king and the queen of love will come in. And when the kingdom is blessed by the presence of the king, the love, unity, humanity will be observed easily. God bless you.
We've now come to the end of the conference, before we invite Mr. Hanif to do the closing speech, there was a very interesting request that came from one of our members here, very senior member of the group, and I'm going to use this microphone and get down to him so that he gets to do what he suggested he'd like to do. Can we welcome Reverend Ramaram, please?
Thank you. I've had the privilege of being at some of these conventions and other forums. And some years ago, I was at a police forum, and the Commissioner of Police was the Commissioner of Activism. And at the end of my day, I challenged him to look at 5 of his officers around the table and smile at them. And the next year when I came back, I asked him if he had picked 5. He said yes. He said, have you smiled at them? And he said no. And I said, see, if you had smiled at them, you could have put on one hand those 5 people as your friends. On the other hand, smile. Putting it together, you would have prayed for them. So I want to leave you with a similar challenge today, that there have been many comments made and lots of things you're going to forget, and it's good to forget as well, and some things that's good to remember. But I want you to remember these words that on one hand, I want you to remember 5 words. They are 5 2-letter words. If it is to be, then it is up to me, or us, whichever way you like to put it. It's me or us. And one thing I want to remember that was said at this place was about fatherhood, about fathers. I'm a grandfather just recently at an old age, but I have a granddaughter who is nearly 8 months, and all she wants to do is to pull all the hair off my beard. But I remember this little story that was said, and I leave it with you. I won't take another 5 minutes. And that is, a father decided he wanted to teach his son something, and took him out on Father's Day. And they had a really good day, and ended up at this departmental store. And when they got to the departmental store, the owner said to the young boy, "Put your hand in the sweet jar and take out as many sweets as you like." And he just looked at his father. And after a few minutes he said the same thing. He said, what's troubling you, boy? You put your hand in the jar and take as much sweets as you like. But he still looked at his father. At which time his father put his hand in the jar and a whole lot of sweets and said, "Come on, son, let's go." And when they got out, he said, why did you keep looking at me all the time? He said, "Well, Dad, I knew you had a bigger hand." So go out and make your goal happen. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to invite the person behind the idea and who guides us, who coaches us, who inspires us to get this thing going. There's a big team and he's going to thank all of them, but it would not happen if not for this man. Can we welcome Hamid and Raza to get it going? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would prefer, I think, I'm not higher there. I shouldn't be there. I should be all of you. Because this is my good Father Brian. Father Brian. You know why I feel I want to be here? Because I think I make all of you work for the last 2 days. Now, many things have been said, so I'm not going to repeat. I think I'm going to take on like what Reverend Rama Peter Rao, go out there and do it. Right? For the last 2 days, we have been here. We dwell, we deliberate, we disagree. We seem to like one another. We also don't like one another for the differences in opinion, but that's perfectly okay. And we also heard so much about religion we talk, and how much misunderstood some of the religion that has been hijacked, has been misused, etc. But I can tell you, and I think all of us can accept, the last 2 days of the time that we spend here is an investment for the children, our children. Right? Because we are all right, we can take care of them. But it's the future that we want to sort of build a foundation. That's the legacy that we want to leave behind. We leave behind a legacy for the children, not so much for ourselves. Now, many nice words we heard. Very nice. Words are words. But like what some of you say, it has to be translated into action. forging bonds of common humanity, building trust, dialogues. All this has to be a constant activity, if I may borrow the words of Reverend Richard Tutin in his speech. It has to be a constant activity. It has to be ongoing, because that's the only way that we can further strengthen that trust. That's the only way we can help. Because religion is in trouble today. It's in real trouble. So that's the only way we can do to help to bring religious and social harmony to a level higher. And I think we can do that. Now, what do I see? I think all of you are Catholics. You are Catholics. You may have been here a number of times. Not converts. You are not converts. You are Catholics, I'll tell you. Because I know, and we know, that all of us going back, we're going to do something. Something that will make a difference. Even that one makes a lot of difference. I always tell my friends, I say, if I only have 1% of success, I will still have confidence in that 1%. Because that 1% is going to make a difference to 100. I can have 99, but if I don't add another 0 over 1 or 2 zeros, I will not get that 100. So that 1% will make a difference, trust me. Alright, if you believe, you're optimistic, your 1% of success will give you the success. Now I want to end off here, because hearing so many quotes, I'd like to show you these two quotes. We talk about change. This is one from Queen Rania. I think we know who she is. The Queen of Jordan. She has been in lots and lots of work like that. And this is what she says. I think change needs to be egoless. That's correct. Cut off your ego. It is not about my leaving my fingerprints or a legacy. It is more to be part of the process, rolling up your sleeves, being on the ground, initiating projects, starting campaign, building stuff. That's what it's about. Action. Act on it. Don't do much, like I said. Just go back, think something that you can do, and put that into action. And I think that's what we want. And look at another quote. Look at this. While pictures may be worth 1,000 words, our feelings convey much more. That's what we should do. So with that, I thank all of you. I think you're wonderful people. Cuba or even Australia is blessed to have all of you. We thank our counterparts from Singapore, and also I thank the members of the Goodwill Committee here. Reverend Jonathan as the chair, and I think Scott is there. The other members are here, and also I'm really appreciative of Reverend Richard Tutin. He lives in Brisbane, but each time we call him, he never says no. And Kam Atwell, Kam, thank you very much for being part of us, right? And of course the many others. There's so many of you to thank. I can't thank you more. All I can do is, in my own way, in a humble way, I'll pray for all of you. Right? I have no gift except the gift of prayers for you. Because together we're going to journey this. Together we're going to build a future for our children. Together we're going to make Australia a better place for us. Thank you so much. Have a good day. And I hope to see you at the friendship dinner. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, just a couple of reminders. Thank you, Hanif. A couple of reminders. First, I did speak to Hanif that the next conference we have, we might want to start with what was the one thing that you tried to do after this conference. And people kind of might be able to share, well, I did try this, it did work, this was one small thing that I did. So we won't leave it hanging. We'll sort of throw it out from each one of us to see, what we've tried to do. So that one. Secondly, please complete the evaluation forms. We'd like to know, to get some feedback on what you think we did well. Is there an area we can improve so that it'll be a better conference next time around? And the other thing would be We hope to see you at 5 o'clock at the friendship dinner. At the dinner at Pure Land. Yes, on the, which is going to feature the Singaporeans performing something for us. So that's going to be very special. There are other performances that are very multicultural as well. There was a reminder of the tags, so we can recycle them. So as you go out through the door, if you can leave them at the reception, that would be very nice. Thank you very much.
Wait 1 minute, just before we leave, I think we should